There was something else that I wanted to talk about, which is my sister's, ex-husband who's has one of her children, her older child, a child that she's not seen in a long time. The courts, asked George to give updates on my sister, to my sister, and it's a good idea. That needs to happen. I think it's really wrong to separate, a mother from her child, or even a child from from the father, unless, of course, they really are causing the child problems, or if they are, or they're not capable of looking after a child. Now, in my sister's situation, she's not capable of looking after a child. If the father then wasn't willing to take on the responsibility, the child would end up in adoption, and she might never see the child. I understand that probably would have happened if it weren't for George, and if the social services were again going to be bitches to me, then the child would have ended up in adoption. And so I'm aware of that. But at the same time, the courts do things. I feel like they tend to take sides. If one person's incapable of looking after a child and another person is capable, I think they'd almost tend to just take the side of the person who is capable. Okay, there's good reasons for that, but they also forget that the person who is capable might also be quite a nasty person, and that's basically this message that my sister received, this update about the child. It wasn't personal. It wasn't, oh, today we went this. I think he has once done that. I think this time last year, again, he was ordered to give updates, and he did say he took the child somewhere. So that was a bit more nicer. So I didn't feel the need to tell the world this, because it was fairly decent. But this time it wasn't. The whole message was, it was an attack on her. We have a nice family now. There's people around who care about the child. We're doing fine. It was him saying, we have everything we need. We don't need you. We're doing fine without you. That's all it was. It wasn't an update. Here's a real true life story, or this is what's actually going on in a child's life. It wasn't any of that. It was just, we're doing much better without you, and that's all the message was about. And therefore, courts need to recognize that if someone does have a child and is completely blocking the other person, you know, say get being on their side and just being like, just give her an update. That might not work, because if you're talking to someone who's nasty and horrible, the person who's nasty and horrible isn't going to be giving nice updates. He's going to be giving nasty updates and an attack on her. One day I would explain in a child-friendly way why you are completely incapable of being a mother and completely incapable of having anything to do with your life. I know mental illness is not your fault and it's no one's problem, but I will explain to him the situation. It's just like, this is an attack. This is a complete. The whole message was an attack on my sister. Now, okay, my sister is slightly mentally ill, so I'm not. She wouldn't see it in the way that I would see it. She would see it in a, oh, this is not very nice. She would see it in that kind of way. Whereas if someone wrote this to me, I would be furious, because I actually have a brain, and I would see this as a deliberate attack on me. She doesn't see it as a deliberate, she sees it as an attack, but I don't think she's quite smart enough to realize how much of an attack on her character, on her personality. He has blocked her from her life, preventing her to have any contact, and then to say that the reason why she has been absent from the child's life is because of her mental condition, her lack of ability, her complete inability to do anything, and incompetentness. She is this. There is some truth to it. So it's an attack that has some truth to it. But at the same time, the reason why she is completely out of this child's life isn't because of her, it's because of him. He's the one who's completely incapable of having a civil conversation with his ex-wife. He's the one who's completely incapable and completely refusal to have the child, and to say, come and see the child for half an hour and I'll supervise. If there's a he's saying, you're the one who isn't paying for that the social services got involved to try and help her see her child, but they did it at a very expensive cost. If there was some sort of play center, £10 an hour, you get the child in there, you have a few carer workers, maybe £20 an hour. £10 an hour probably would be enough to fund it, but £20 an hour, You know, if I was just a play center where you had a couple of staff watching over, you know, that would be fine. You know, my sister is fine with a child, but she does need supervision. And if George is refusing to offer that supervision, then he can't be blaming her lack of access to the child's life on her, because he is the one who's refusing to be that supervisor. He is the one who's saying that I'm going to call the police if you show up at my house. He is the one that's saying I've got restraining orders on you and you're not allowed to contact me. And the courts are completely stupid and full of idiots that should just be in farms, I think. You know, that they're stupid for thinking that if the mother wants to contact her child, therefore you have to continue with the restraining order, because why should that be illegal for a mother to call a child? Oh, it's harassment. No, it's not harassment. George has her child and has got restraining orders on her for 4 years, so she's had absolutely no contact, no anything, except for the 1 or 2 times where he's refused the social worker's call. The social workers got involved and said that he has to make a phone call every 2 weeks, and that only happened for a few months. And you know, one of the calls he didn't give her, so that was the only time she's ever made contact. And of course, he's using that as an excuse. You know, he's got very little evidence that my sister is incapable of looking after a child. Okay, I have seen it, and I do agree. But he only saw it for 3 months, and then Sophie ran off. He has had no more updates. You know, he does not know how Sophie went into a mental hospital, and technically there's different ways you can end up in a mental hospital. You know, you can end up in a mental hospital because you're going around with a cat telling people, can I have some money for my frog? And people be like, that's not a frog, you know, and then they'll call the mental health institute and you can get locked up. You know, you're not doing anything dangerous, you're not doing anything violent, you're just saying something that's a bit crazy. You know, you can end up in a mental hospital for all sorts of reasons, and to assume that because she's ended up in a mental hospital, she is therefore a risk and danger to a child, that's not the truth. I mean, technically, mental breakdowns could actually just last for a month or two, and then you could get over them, and then you can no longer be a danger to a child. So it's a difficult situation, because there is some truth to it. You know, people don't end up in mental hospitals for no reason. They usually end up because they are deemed a danger to themselves. Now, if they're a danger to themselves, they might be a danger to a child. You know, I get that, but he's taken all the tiny details that he knows, which is not much, and he's going to try and use as much details that he knows as evidence that Sophie is the one who's in the wrong. Sophie is the one who can't look after a child. Sophie is the one who's completely incapable of having anything to do with her child. And I will explain in a child-friendly way, because Sophie is incapable of even explaining in a child-friendly way. You know, the whole thing was just a fucking attack. And I know I shouldn't be getting angry, because my sister probably isn't as angry as I am over this. I am furious over this, because this is a horrible person, and this horrible person should not treat the mother of his child in this way. If he just had sex with a prostitute and then found out that he has a child, and then taken the child and is talking badly of the mother because of, you know, obvious reasons, or say if someone went through a bad patch and ended up doing drugs and met someone and then ended up having a kid, you know, I can understand if that's the situation and you're being horrible towards the mother because of the terrible person or the terrible lifestyle or a lot of problems. But that's not my sister. You know, they were together for 13 years. They got married. This was a proper relationship, and then for it to just end because he realizes that she can't look after kids, you know, it's and then to turn so cold, and then to block her completely out of her life, and then 4 years later, after having literally next to no contact, and any tiny contact that he gets, he uses it as a chance to get a restraining order. Not just both my sister, but my mum as well. I know if I made any contact, if I went round to his house and said, "What the fuck are you doing?" he would get a restraining order on me. He would use that one tiny encounter to say that I am a danger to him. And the courts are stupid. The courts don't give a shit. They just think, whatever, you know, this guy is saying something, we'll allow it because we are heartless assholes who don't care. And it's this attitude that makes me not care about humans, because humans don't care about humans. How can I care about humans when I know that humans don't care about humans? And it's just, and then, you know, on one hand you take their side, you know, humans are idiots, humans are stupid, you know, I get why humans aren't for humans. But on the other hand, you're just like, well, surely someone must be decent here. So someone must not think that this is, you know, And it's a terrible situation, and I think there must be decent people somewhere, but there are probably people who don't get involved in courtrooms because it's a very stressful job. Because you can never please anyone. You know, even if you give someone what they want, they're still probably not happy because horrible people are not happy with getting what they want. They want more. You know, George likes to control. He likes to dominate. He likes to have this power over people, and if he can use the courts to give him more power, he will get some satisfaction. But he's not he's not satisfied because he's not satisfied with himself. You know, he knows that he's a terrible person inside, but he's denying his consciousness. But my sister was with him for 13 years, and they're both terrible people, right? Really, you know, they both didn't see problems with each other. You know, he liked to control and dominate her, and she was stupid, so thought that that was you know, good, and she chose him over my family because she preferred him to me and my mum, which was fine because Sophie was getting a bit annoying, I think. So I just, it's just, people shouldn't be like this, and to take, I guess the courts can't change a person. If someone has a child and that person is a vile person and is wanting to attack and put all the blame on someone else, and the other person's autistic and doesn't say anything, you know, I understand that it's going to be easy to take the person the side of the person who talks, but yeah, it is a messy situation because the courts can't change that evil person, um, and they can't make someone who can't look after kids able to look after kids. She's not a danger to a child, but she might lose focus, and the child is a danger to itself because it can't see danger. So, um, but yes, children cannot look after children. But yes, I don't know what's going to happen with this new child. They still haven't let her out of hospital, um, and I don't want to get involved. I want no involvement. I'm not going to make it. I don't know if Sophie knows this yet, but I'm not going to be trying to see the child. I'm just going to keep putting it off. Oh, next week, next week, next week. Really, I don't want to get involved because I don't want the stress of seeing her do things wrong and knowing that there's nothing I can do to change it. This child has a father. The father is quite maternal. I think the child's father is quite maternal, so I think he can act as mummy. I don't think he'll be very happy about it, and I'm wondering if the relationship will change as soon as he realizes that he's going to have to be the mum, basically. Um, I don't know, but but what I do know is that I yeah, people shouldn't be cruel. If they've got a child over someone, you have to be civil, and you shouldn't just see problems in someone else. You know, I think George does have a mental condition, but if I tried to tell him that, he wouldn't acknowledge it. He wouldn't believe it. He would just think that I'm the one with the mental condition. He's got his mental condition is spiritual, you know, because he's acting like God the Father. He's acting like someone who thinks he's always in the right. You know, the world has blocked the idea of God the Mother. I don't know why. They've given no credit, no acknowledgement to the fact that actually, you know, Mother Nature is actually a human. It is actually a real thinking, living person. No one is given credit to that. So the world has been like George is, and spiritually he is just acting out what the world has done to me. You know, they've blocked me out of the life. They've said that I don't exist, that I'm completely incapable of anything, because I'm not real. You know, that Mother Nature is just animals. It's the weather. You know, if there's a hurricane, that's Mother Nature. You know, Mother Nature is the hurricanes and tornadoes. You know, tornadoes are completely incapable of looking after humans because they're nothing. You know, that's so I feel like that is what the world has done to an idea of, you know, an all powerful female god, and he's doing the same thing to the child, saying that Sophie's completely incapable when really she's only a little bit incapable. Just like I'm not capable of looking after 8 billion people. No, of course I'm not. Especially not if I don't like them, or if they're just all, you know, destroying each other and hating each other, and you know. I don't think God the Father's capable as well. But the thing is, God the Father's evil, so God the Father is more capable because it's just a large group of people that don't really care about other people, but are trying to just form some sort of civilization where things work out. The leaders at the top don't want the people at the bottom breaking into their houses and stealing all their stuff, so they have to create some sort of order to give themselves a better life. I feel like there's a lot of people on earth that just do things for their own sake. You shouldn't steal in shops because it's all the long reasons why you shouldn't steal, but technically the real reason why is because you want to walk into the shops, and you can't walk into the shops if there's nothing in there and if they've all been closed down because people have come in and stolen everything. So there's a common unity that people have created, but this common unity of rules and laws is actually about learning to have a better life by obeying certain rules. You don't want to walk down the street and feel like someone's just going to shoot you in the head, so you have to have laws that stop things like this from happening. But the real motivation behind all these laws is actually a selfish purpose. I don't want to be shot, so I'm going to try and take people who are capable of shooting people and make sure they get life in prison. It's helping unity, but it's also helping themselves. And the idea of promoting God the Mother as being a real thing, I don't think anyone thought that was something that they're worth doing, because they couldn't see any benefit in helping themselves, because they didn't actually believe in a real God, a real female that, or I don't think people really do believe in a God. I think they do believe in a God, but they see it as male and masculine, because they see how sort of evil the world is, and they think, well, it's obviously, they get a wrong view of life and reality.